Hi, sweetie pie. More poems and history from Celebrate. Oh, Days to Celebrate. I keep calling it the wrong thing. Days to Celebrate. Um, Sorry, moving forward here. This is now we're up to April, and it says no one knows for sure how April got its name. Many believe it comes from the Latin aperire, meaning to open. The flower of April is the sweet pea. We grow peas, but usually the vegetable pea. Sweet peas are a little hard to grow around here, but they're beautiful. They're very much like the flower of the actual pea plant, but bigger and showier. Birthstone is the diamond. The zodiac sign is Taurus, the bull. And let's see. So moving on, let's just quickly see before we read a poem whose birthdays and what days are special here. April 1st, Rachmaninoff, the composer. April 2nd, Hans Christian Andersen, the Danish author of fairy tales. The creator of the Statue of Liberty, the French sculptor. Washington Irving, April 3rd, who wrote Rip Van Winkle. I won't do all of them now. Let's just skip forward a little bit. April 11th, 1968, U.S. Civil Rights Act becomes law. April 13th, Thomas Jefferson's birthday. April 14th, Noah Webster publishes an American dictionary. April 15th, Leonardo da Vinci. April 21st, John Muir. April 23rd, William Shakespeare. April 26th, John James Audubon, one of your favorite painters because he paints, wait for it, birds. April 28th, Maryland, the seventh state to enter the Union. And now let's move on to a poem, and it's called If You Believe Me by Lee Bennett Hopkins, and this is for April 1st, which is sometimes called April Fool's Day. If you believe me, Lenny, sailing down the river, ate tons and tons of fresh ground liver. Peter, flying in the sky, ate gobs and gobs of pigsty pie. Heather, sitting up in bed, ate chunks and chunks of codfish head. Mickey, riding a caboose, ate slabs and slabs of uncooked moose. Foods so tasty made them drool. If you believe me, you're an April Fool, which is a bit rude, but perhaps a bit funny. I'll read it one more time. If You Believe Me by Lee Bennett Hopkins. Here's the picture that goes with it. Lenny, sailing down the river, ate tons and tons of fresh ground liver. Peter, flying in the sky, ate gobs and gobs of pigsty pie. Heather, sitting up in bed, ate chunks and chunks of codfish head. Mickey, riding a caboose, ate slabs and slabs of uncooked moose. Foods so tasty made them drool. If you believe me, you're an April Fool. Enough of that. Let's move on. This poem is by Richard Purdy Wilbur. He was named America's second poet laureate in 1987, and he, like about 90% of the people in this book, was born in New York City. He's also known for writing the libretto with playwright Lillian Hellman for the musical version of Voltaire's Candide. This poem is from a bigger collection called More Opposites by Richard Wilbur. The opposite of kite, I'd say, is yo-yo. On a breezy day, you take your kite and let it rise upon its string into the skies, and then you pull it down with ease unless it crashes in the trees. A yo-yo, though, drops down and then you quickly bring it up again by pulling deftly on its string if you can work the blasted thing. I used to be a champion at yo-yo. I was really good, and I will teach you when you're a little bit bigger. Yo-yos are cool. I got my tonsils out about the time that I was given a yo-yo. And so I remember being in those hospital crib beds and just, you didn't have much to do all day while you recovered, and I just practiced and practiced, and it was quite fun. So let's move on to the next poem. Oh yes, we've got a little time. I love these books that have nice thick pages. They're a little hard to turn, but they feel so good. April 22nd is Earth Day. The first Earth Day was sparked in 1970 by Senator Gaylord Nelson of Wisconsin to help clean the earth. Over 20 million Americans took part, and I was one of them. 2 decades later, on April 22nd, 1990, 200 million people in more than 140 countries celebrated the second Earth Day, which is now an annual event. And here's the picture, and the title of the poem is Earth, What Will You Give Me? Earth, what will you give me in summer? In summer, what will you give me in summer, serene? I'll give you my fields made of lilies. Of lilies, I'll give you my fields made of lilies and green. And what will you give me in autumn? In autumn, and what will you give me in autumn so bold? I'll give you my leaves made of maple. Of maple, I'll give you my leaves made of maple and gold. And what will you give me in winter? In winter, and what will you give me in winter so light? I'll give you my stars made of crystals. Of crystal, I'll give you my stars made of crystal and white. And what will you give me in springtime? In springtime, and what will you give me in springtime so new? I'll give you my nests made of grasses, of grasses. I'll give you my nests made of grasses and blue. That was an interesting poem. That was a little different than most poems that we read. It had a pattern, it had repetition, it had rhythm, and we have to think about it a bit. It's interesting that the colors, each section, each season ends with a color: green, gold, white, and blue. It's interesting that springtime ends in blue, because you think of spring as bright pinks and pastel colors from the flowers that bloom in the spring. And when it says, I'll give you my nests made of grasses and blue, it makes you wonder, because grasses are green and nests are kind of brown, usually from dried grasses, but grasses and blue. Something to think about. When you look up at a nest, you see sky. The sky is blue. But it might be something, maybe the eggs are blue also sometimes. Interesting. More to think about. I'm just going to see what the next one is. We're going to read this too, because this is about birds, and we were just talking about nests, and it's a very short poem. It's the birth date, April 26th, of John James Audubon, 1785 to 1851. He came to the United States in 1803. He was born in Haiti. As a teenager, he began extensive observations of birds. His lifelong interest led to the publication of Birds of America, featuring drawings and painting that remain one of the greatest achievements in ornithology, which is the study of birds. His paintings and drawings are amazing. This is not his, but I think this is from the author of the book. But his are really detailed and beauties. You'll see some, for sure. This is a short poem called Little Birds. Anonymous means we don't know who wrote it. Little birds. Little birds sit in their nest and beg, all mouth that once had been all egg. Oh, I really like that. It's so true. And it's so demonstrative of what a poem can do. How many words is this? Maybe not even, barely 12 or 13 or 14. And yet, it just says something really true. If you've seen a bird's nest, this is what it's like. And you're kind of close in age and spirit to what they feel when they're born and amazingly hungry. Little birds sit in their nest and beg, all mouth that once had been all egg. Oh, I like that. Okay, and then we're going to do one more because this is the last one of the April section. National Poetry Month, Young People's Poetry Week, is celebrated the third week in April, has been an important part of Natural Poetry Month since 1999. It's a time for everyone to read, write, and enjoy poetry. And these are some quotes, 4 quotes from famous people about poetry, from poets. If I read a book and it makes my whole body so cold that no fire can ever warm me, I know that is poetry. That is Emily Dickinson, who was a poet. I'm going to read it again. If I read a book and it makes my body so cold that no fire can ever warm me, I know that is poetry. That's really good. I really like that. A poem begins as a lump in the throat, a sense of wrong, a homesickness, a lovesickness. That's Robert Frost. A poem begins as a lump in the throat, a sense of wrong, a homesickness, a lovesickness. In other words, it's not just words. It's not just an exercise. It begins with powerful feelings of the human experience, or of experience of more than humans. The next quote is this: poetry is a record of the best and happiest moments for the happiest of minds. I'll read it again. Poetry is a record of the best and happiest moments for the happiest of minds. And that is Percy Bysshe Shelley, who was a poet in the Romantic period of poetry, which is my favorite. And he was about the time of Wordsworth. He, like several of the Romantic poets, died quite young. Percy Bysshe Shelley. And the fourth one is Poetry is Cries and Laughter from the Heart by Joyce Carol Thomas. Okay, boy, did we have a good reading for the April ones from this book, Days to Celebrate. Okie doke. More soon. I love you, sweetie pie. Hope you're having a great day. Bye-bye.